Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of two girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values, and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry, and sigh a big sigh of relief. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Ruby from Wild and Form Digital for a special episode all about parenting and social media. Hi Ruby, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome, Emma. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yes, me too. So do you want to start by introducing yourself and just telling everyone a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Ruby. I'm the founder of Wild and Form Digital. So it's a social media consultancy and training company. And I've been doing this for the last almost 6 years now. And prior to that, I worked in the sales and marketing industry for about 18 years, worked for Microsoft, Facebook Partners, some global outdoor companies. And then 6 or so years ago, I thought I've had enough. And I no longer felt that innate sort of like fire in my belly every morning. I was one of those strange people that loved getting up of a morning and going to work. And I always told myself that once that flame had gone out, I had to take stock, and that eventually happened. And here we are now. So my purpose really is to empower everyone. So that's business owners, educators, and specifically young people as well, to use social media in ways that nurture their creativity and also protect their mental health. That's massively important for me. It's about prioritizing your mental wellness over likes. Yeah. And that, in a nutshell, I could keep going, but that in a nutshell is what I'm about.
Brill, thank you. So social media, it's like a whole new part of parenting, isn't it? Like, I don't think anyone's kind of ever really done this before. And there's so many levels to it. So why I wanted to do this episode, I've been so excited to do this, is it's mainly, with working on social media myself, I see all sorts of things. And obviously my eldest is 12, so we're preteen stage. She's got a phone. So we're kind of embarking on this step now, and I'm really, really conscious about ensuring that, you know, she's safe online and with her phone use, but also like you say, mental health is like a huge one. So I just kind of wanted to do this episode to help support parents when it comes to parenting and social media. My main, I guess you could say, my main concern, and something that I think about all the time, is, are we protecting our children on and from social media enough?
That's a big question. That's a great question as well. It's one that I get asked and think about myself often. You know, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, several nieces and nephews of a similar age as well. And much like you, and much like your listeners, will be constantly thinking about what are they on, where are they, who are they talking to, what are they seeing, inadvertently or otherwise. And I think that, I suppose the answer to your question is, are we doing enough? I mean, as parents, how busy are our lives already? So one of the first things I try to say to parents is not layering on additional pressure and thinking you're going to have to monitor and track every single thing that they do. It's unsustainable. That you can't do that. What you can do, though, is to initiate conversation with them as soon as you can. So even when they're in year 3, year 4, I think that's a very good time to do that. Particularly so, I go into a lot of primary schools running social media safety sessions, and every year that I go in, senior leaders tell me each year they are seeing younger and younger students having mobile phones, smartphones. So previously, in previous years, I've gone in and taught primarily and had conversations with year 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And it's gradually got younger and younger. So the conversations at home should therefore reflect that as well.
Yeah.
And it's about having those daily or regular conversations with them about social media, not in a threatening, it's a terrible space kind of way, but it's that just a natural conversation about perhaps what you've seen on social, what new features have come out, who are they following, why are they following them, what sort of joy do they get from that, or have there been any incidents or images or videos that worried them. But you don't ask all of these questions all at once. It's not an interrogation, but it's that small drip feed, open, honest, non-judgmental conversation that you're having with your children or your child. It could be done over dinner, when you're doing bath time, when you're in the car to and from school, any moment that you get just to have that quality conversation period with them. Over time, having that conversation, demonstrating that you're actually listening, that you're not instantly going to judgment mode or shock mode or horror or how dare you, I can't believe that mode. It's it allows them to understand that not if, but when they encounter something that they find upsetting or concerning, they know they can come to you and have that chat. And like most parents, when we're having conversations with our children, they sort of reveal those concerns to us at the most kind of those moments during the day. It's usually for me it was bedtime, when you're just tucking your child in and then suddenly they want to open up a conversation. You're like, now? But it's those moments where you think, right, okay, I've got to, this is it. I've got to listen. This is this moment that I thought would happen has arrived. So I've got to be in receiving mode, non-judgmental, and let them offload onto you. But they can only get to that stage if you've demonstrated to them that conversation pathway is open. And a lot of students that I chat with, one of the questions I ask them is, who do you talk to when you come across something on social that you find a little bit upsetting or concerning, or you just want to have a chat about? And the large majority of students never say their parents.
Right. Wow.
At the start of the session, which I find really, I shouldn't find shocking, but I find it really, I find it quite upsetting in a way, that they feel as though that there isn't that communication pathway there for whatever reason that might be. So that's why I always encourage of not just parents, but also young people. I say to them, have you tried to have a conversation with your parents? Have a go, maybe have a go on the way home from school. Let them know what we've been chatting about, and that you want to be able to talk about these things with them.
The
conversation.
And I think it's hard as a parent, isn't it? Because I think we don't, because it's such a new thing, we don't know what to do sometimes, like with these conversations. And I think sometimes instinct can be to just shut it down.
Tell me about it. I've been there.
So I think we kind of need to be a little bit prepared ourselves as well, don't we?
I think prepared and brave, and acknowledging that we won't always know the answers, and that's okay, because at that point they're not necessarily looking for answers from us. They're looking for a safe space, and they're looking for somebody to protect them at that point. It's after that you can go away and you can do your research. There are loads of
Yeah.
great websites out there. There are, I encourage your audience, if they want to, DM me with questions, I'm more than happy. But there will be points where you can go away and do your research and then come back and continue that conversation, because it's never a one-off, is it?
No, never.
That moment always continues. Just like any topic that you're talking about with your child, you don't just, it's not just a Q&A, simple, bam, done, move on to the next problem. This is life.
Yeah.
So, and that also encourages that continuation of conversation. It's that checking in with them. This is what we said. Well, how did that work out? Did you have that conversation with your friend, or did you mention that in class to your teacher? Or how do you feel about it now? A week later or so.
Yeah.
It gives you that continual check-in point. And again, it's reassurance for them that you are there, that they may have made a mistake inadvertently or otherwise, but you're still there. You're there protecting them, you're there guiding them. And you're right. As parents, gosh, we've got a lot on. And so we need to give ourselves a break as well. We're not social media experts. Even the experts out there, even those who are within the safety world, those who are within the channel creations, they can't keep up with the changes. And there are so many channels out there. So that's not your job, isn't to know every single safety measure on every single platform and every single feature. Your job is to be that wonderful parent that you are, and be there and do the research, regularly.
Yeah. So in your opinion, where do you start? So like, your child's just got a phone or whatever sort of, because I guess it doesn't always start with phones, is it? Like I've got girls and they're not gamers at all, but I know that obviously for some children, gaming will be the first step, I guess. And I don't really know much about it, but I know you've got like online chat and stuff like that on there now. So where do you start as a parent? So I guess where do you start, but in terms of how do you introduce those like sort of safety boundaries or good use of social media?
I'd start with a family discussion, whatever your family unit looks like. Whenever you decide to introduce a digital device into the family, is to sit down as a unit and decide those boundaries, those barriers. So what you, based on your family values, what you will and won't accept, timings, space in which they can, which rooms can they use the tech in, for how long, which channels, and also asking your children, what is it that they hope to be able to get out of being on that channel or that gaming platform? What is it they're looking for? And being able to set almost like a family, kind of like a, I suppose, what do you call it, like an agenda or a family kind of like set of rules, really. But those rules, those digital rules, are ones that you create together. So it's not you as the parent saying, you will do this, you will do that, because you're going to get pushback, aren't you, at any point. So it is that conversational piece, which can be done with children as young as 3 and 4, in years 3 and 4. They've got opinions there, very well formed opinions right then. So open that discussion, and there will be that, as ever, that negotiation period. But I would actively encourage whichever channels you do or platforms you do introduce, to do them very slowly, one at a time, and for you to be active in that space, and not active as in have an account necessarily or have an account and be on it all the time. It's understanding become familiar with it. What does the actual platform look like? What are some of the features in there? What are the safety features there for parents? A lot of social media channels, and in fact digital platforms, have got multiple safety features. Now, whether or not, I read a report recently, Instagram has over 30, I think it is, but they can be very difficult to find. So just within the Meta platform as well, but they can be challenging for parents to find them. And but once you found them, they're easy to activate. Now that's a separate piece in itself. I think the social media platforms have a lot to do when it comes to doing better when it comes to making those empowerment tools easier to access. But going back to the introduction of channels and features, do it with them, set it up together, look at the features and the settings. What can you do in order to make things perhaps a private chat, or their profile is non-public, ensuring that they're not giving away, personal information inadvertently, their address, their school. And then talking to them about the sorts of communication and information that they might share with somebody, and also recognizing when perhaps a conversation is not quite as it seems. But to keep you posted. And also some of the time you can have apps on your phone that allow you to track what they're up to, accessibility. Do that, but tell them that you've done that, because you are there parenting them, that you're there to help protect them, and that's your job as a parent, is to do that. And again, it's part of that conversation piece as well. But do it slowly and do it together.
So like when my eldest daughter, when she got her phone, I did do something like that actually. And what we did was I kind of explained to her, obviously that I work on social media and I see all sorts of things, and what all I'm doing is trying to keep her safe. And we kind of discussed what apps I was happy with her to have. But then I also said within that conversation, if there's a point where there's an app that you really want, or your friends are communicating on it, or anything like that, just come to me, tell me, and we'll have a discussion about that. You can put your points forward, I'll explain mine, and then hopefully we'll be able to compromise. Because
That's a brilliant way.
I see so much, and it's essentially like you just want to keep your children safe, don't you? And not exposed to stuff that isn't appropriate.
Absolutely. And I think that conversation piece that you had is similar to the one that I had with my daughter when she first got her smartphone in the summer of year 6, which I think is a popular time for one. But it is that conversational piece. And like you said, we had a discussion about the apps that we were happy for her to use at that time, how she would use those. And also if she's just about to finish year 8, but if she wants to have an app, even now, a new one, I get a notification of it. And we have that discussion. It still continues. She doesn't have a lot of, she doesn't have Snapchat, she doesn't have TikTok, she doesn't have Instagram. And I will do what I can to keep her off those for as long as I can. But what she is doing with some of the other channels is that she's like Pinterest, WhatsApp. She's understanding slowly what that space looks like for her, and also she gets that opportunity to curate conversations and content at a pace that I feel suits my child. And it's always based on what you think is suitable for your child. There is no one size fits all. You know your child best. But it allows us to then continue to have those conversations about, who you're following, what has interested you, what videos have you been watching, and we still have that dialogue. I'm still conversing with her about it. And we have an open, I suppose, smartphone policy in terms of she knows my passcode, I know hers. We leave them out in the family space. We don't try and hide things. she's more than welcome to come. We'll look at Instagram on my device together if she wants to. We might, for instance, we've just finished watching something on Netflix, Exo Kitty, which is massively popular with her age group. And so obviously she wants to follow, wants to see what some of the actors are up to. So we'll hop onto my Instagram, we'll take a look together. That then inspires her in terms of like fashion or whatever it might be, cultural stuff that she can then go and explore on Pinterest. So it's about that dual, I suppose, conversation, open dialogue that we're having. So I'd say follow suit.
Yeah, that's it. And well, I just want to touch on, like, so you've mentioned like Snapchat there, TikTok, Instagram, like we have similar boundaries. I think, like at the minute she's got like WhatsApp, Pinterest, and I just kind of want to, so I asked some of the parents that follow me their main concerns of their children and social media, and the main one was bullying, and just, this is only obviously my personal opinion, but I find Snapchat, it's obviously a really popular app, but I just feel really uncomfortable with that, with my daughter having it, because I just find they're so accessible, and it's so easy for things to happen on there that, again, like bullying, grooming. I know of quite a few situations that children we know have been in. So I guess I'm just kind of like, in terms of apps, what are your thoughts on, again, like that bullying and all that kind of what I've just discussed?
I mean, it's so pervasive, isn't it? Bullying on digital devices, because it's always on, it's always there. They can't escape it as such. But it doesn't necessarily have to happen on those apps you've just mentioned. It can easily happen on something like WhatsApp. And again, my daughter was on the receiving end, unfortunately, of a similar thing from somebody at her school. And again, I suppose the way that we dealt with that was through conversation. I talked about access to phones, so she can use mine, I can use hers. So I came across randomly charging her phone and came across this WhatsApp message, and I thought, and it was aggressive. It came from somebody she's not friends with. And I asked her, I said, tell me, this is an unusual message. I'm shocked by it. Where is this coming from? We then had that conversation. I then immediately, screen grabbed it, and then immediately got in touch with the school. It was after school, so I dropped them an email and went straight to the school the following morning to discuss that as a safeguarding issue with their designated safeguarding lead. And I suppose because it can happen on any of those channels, again, it's that awareness and that, hopefully, that openness, being able to say to your child, if something happens, please come and tell me. Let's talk about it. I have got your back. I am in your corner. We're going to sort this. And it's then it's gut wrenching. Trust me, it's horrible having that feeling and thinking there's somebody out there who has access to my child and is sending them, in this case, it was violent messages, aggressive messages. And it was, wow. The first thing you want to do is protect your child, don't you? And then it's, oh my gosh, what do I do? But I would say to parents to screen grab, and I know that some of the apps let others know that you've taken a screenshot. And my opinion is, I don't care. Because if your child is involved in a situation that is harmful to them or to others, then it's our job to be able to step in and protect them. If we don't do that, then who will? There are many incidents, for whatever reasons, that either go unchecked or spiral out of control very quickly and that end in very sad ways. So our that's all we want to do, is to protect them, right? To protect them and to teach them and guide them. And it is not just a responsibility of the parents at that point, but also to don't be afraid of getting the school involved. I know a lot of school leaders who are daily, they will be coming across incidents to do with bullying on phones, on digital devices, on social channels. This isn't going to go away.
No.
But the job of responsibility lies with us as parents, and in conjunction with the school as well, doing their, they're doing their safety checks and safety talks and conversational pieces. And it's us at home as parents reinforcing that as well. But I would also say a lot of those channels, though, have got very good features in place and tools for you to report and to block people that you don't want to have conversing with your child. I think they're getting better and better at reporting abusive or bullying messages as well. A lot of them have got really great tools, sort of like on their desktop versions as well. Instagram, even though they've got a lot of features, and some of which can be a little bit tricky to find, I feel as though are doing a very good job of trying to get that conversational piece in a good place with parents, and letting parents know where those controls are, how they can better help the mental health and safety of their child as well. So take a look on Instagram's parental controls on a desktop. I feel as though that's a really good space to kind of look.
Okay. And it's so hard, isn't it? Like, because we use it ourselves, and I think you always just think, oh, it's fine. But then when children are then using it, it's about, like we've kind of discussed, it's that appropriate use, isn't it? And setting those boundaries, those foundations from the start, then kind of build that, don't they? And I see so many children on social media, like, friends' children, family children, like you see them pop up, don't you? And they're on social media from such a young age, and some of the things I see, it worries me that them boundaries maybe aren't in place, and that parents aren't even seeing stuff. And to the child, it's obviously harmless, but as an adult, that's it. And you always just think it won't happen to us. And I know of a couple of people in circumstances, and it has happened. And another thing I just popped onto in my brain is like about something that I'm really funny about because of the nature of what I do online, is like location and stuff like that. And there's actually it popped up on TikTok yesterday, and there's someone on TikTok, and she people will say, oh, can you find me? And it's like they think that their profile is pretty locked down, and she'll go on the profile, and within however long, she has exactly where they live, just from pictures and stuff. So I kind of, I guess, just want to highlight and get your thoughts on, you always think that, because it made me think, like, I try and keep like stuff that I put public fairly private, but then it made me think, like, wow, maybe I'm not keeping us as safe as what I thought I was.
I think there's a lot there you just covered. In terms of, no, it's all good stuff. So in terms of that reinforcement of boundaries, so continuing having those conversations about what is and what isn't acceptable, and what they might come across as well, because it's very easy for us to, as adults, with our critical thinking development, which is lacking biologically at a much younger age, our brains are still developing. It's very easy even for us to be able to pop a search term in, or look for something, or click on a reel, and then suddenly we're fed similar content, because the algorithm doesn't understand us as humans. It's simply thinking, oh, they watch this, therefore they must want more of it. I will therefore show it more of that sort of stuff and other categories connected to it. So that's why I think the conversational piece is really important. And when it comes down to understanding that personal identifiable information that your child might be sharing, in an obvious or non-obvious way, whether that's a uniform, the branding uniform on a blazer or a jumper, it might be they're just taking a photograph, but there's a prominent landmark behind them, or whatever it might be. You don't recognize it in the moment. You're just trying to capture the energy and the emotion then. Is to be able to, there she is, just about cut off that was my cat, just about to delete our conversation. I thought that might happen. That's why she's called Mischief, because she's mischievous. Sorry, just going back to that, it's why as parents, when you're setting up the account for your child, is to check those default settings for location, is to be able to sit down and look through those settings with them as well. When they're creating a post, show them what might be exposing them in terms of location or other identifiable information. Demonstrate how easy it is to overlook things like that. And that's okay. It's not their fault. You're just making them aware, but you're doing it together. You're helping to educate them, and that's important. They don't get taught how to use social media in schools. They teach themselves, and it's peer-to-peer learning. So that then in itself, I love peer-to-peer learning. That's empowering, but also it leaves them very much exposed, because they don't have that critical thinking, that wider life experience. Be able to protect themselves properly. So that's why I think doing that together, getting involved, understanding how do you create a post, what are all the additional features that you might tick inadvertently, how do you ensure that those default settings are off, and you can only do that if you get involved and are active in those channels yourself. There's so much to it. I hope that helps. That's a good starting point, the active learning.
So if I touch on so the list of parents' main concerns that I've got, obviously I've mentioned bullying, other people, which I guess kind of comes into bullying a little bit, but there's a whole thing, isn't there, of different ways that could be effective. Seeing topics are too young for. So I guess TikTok is quite the one that springs to mind for me with that. Secrets, which we've kind of touched on, haven't we? It's having that open dialogue, isn't it? And
and they may well be keeping stuff from you because they're worried about what your reaction will be. They'll get told off, that they might have their device taken away from them. They'll be punished somehow, regardless of their part in that situation. That's why it's still important to be able to say to them, as you would do, reassure them, look, you're not in trouble. I just want to help. Please tell me. I'm here. We will get through this together. Now, internally, you might be raging. But it's tricky, isn't it, as a parent, to keep a lid on that? But you have to. I always have to watch my facial expressions away, and I'm like, right, you've got to be able to make sure your face is demonstrating or matches the words coming out of your mouth, Ruby. So let's be aware of that. But it's that open conversation, and not keeping those secrets. But don't you? You know when your child is not quite themselves, behaving in a certain way, their behavior is changed, their actions tell you a lot more than what they might be saying or not saying to you. So that's a good opportunity for you to prise open that door gently and get them to talk.
And then I think the other one, which I guess is probably one of the ones that, along with bullying, springs to mind straight away, which is grooming. And I actually saw, I can't remember where it popped up, maybe on LinkedIn, the National Online, is it National Online Service? So it's I share their posts all the time because they do really informative like posters of, you know, like TikTok, Snapchat, and it's got like all the information on it's National Online Safety Research, sorry. And it said they'd research from Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre said that 1 in 5 children have been approached by an online predator, which is quite, you know, like a big 1 in 5. So I guess I kind of just wanted to touch on, like, I mean, we have kind of touched on it already, but have you had a conversation with your child about online safety? Like, I think that's something as parents that we're so frightened of happening that we can tend to forget to have that conversation because we just don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want them to know it happens. But in reality, you need to, like we've said, you need to have those conversations in order to keep it safe.
Right. And it's we don't want to have that conversation. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't have the answers. So therefore, we don't want to open that conversation until we know exactly what to say to them. But we can't wait for that perfect moment. It has to just happen sooner rather than later. I mean, then obviously there are different approaches to take depending on the age of your child and the exact way that you relay the information. But it's saying to them that not everybody out there in the world is as honest as we are in the family. Not everyone is going to be showing up as themselves. Look at the filters that are doing the rounds on the likes of TikTok, the filters that can make you look significantly younger. I've seen loads of videos. You've got women kind of my age, and I've put a bit of tuning on these apps. They look the age of my daughter.
Yeah. And do you know what? That's something. Oh, sorry, just while you're on that, because I'll forget. That's something that, like, I've seen them filters. Me and my youngest daughter, we sit and watch like TikToks together and stuff, and sometimes we'll try the filters, and it's a bit of fun. But that hasn't really crossed my mind that then that could be used in the sense you're saying. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think, do you know what the really sad thing is that a lot of the features that we get excited about on social channels, video content, filters, stickers, all of that sort of stuff, for the majority of people, it is that fun, engaging, educational, entertaining space. But simultaneously, there are people out there who will take full advantage of those in order to groom and sexually exploit our young people. And that's where, again, you're having fun, engaging with them, using those features and those apps, which I think is terrific. There's no better learning than doing it together and showing them more, that empowering our side of social, because it's not all bad, it's not all good. But then being able to say to them, open that conversation around how that could be manipulated by others whose intentions aren't positive. And it's about helping to develop their critical thinking in terms of information that might be shared to them in a way that sort of raises a red flag or question mark in their mind. And that's it's better to err on the side of caution than not. If something doesn't feel right, then stop. You know, tell somebody about it, a trusted adult, you, school teacher, and explore that with them. Tell them and let them to sort of help you figure out whether or not that is a genuine request, question, whatever it might be. But it's almost like trying to let them know that not everything that they see is as is, just like it would be even if it's just somebody, say, manipulating maybe whether or not they've got a tan, or, you know, popping a filter on. I mean, then that travels into things like adjusting the shape of your body, or removing spots, taking, having shorter hair. All of those nuances then start to build into other, could potentially lead down to other ways of thinking that then start to affect the mental well-being of your child.
Yeah.
But unless, again, it's about, like we're saying, that critical thinking, you're doing it together, you're educating them and letting them know how it can be fun, but also how others may well take advantage of that situation.
Yeah.
And for them to be aware of that. There's my cat
again. So what, just to kind of like, I guess, sum what we've talked about up, what would you kind of say is your top tips for parents, but also then what would your top tips be for the children? So you've got the two different sides. So what would your top tips for parents be?
Is don't delay the conversation about social media with your child. I'd say start that conversation as early as you can. Like I said, from 3 or 4, especially if you've got older siblings as well. They're already engaged in that conversation. Yeah. So, get them involved, start talking start talking to them so that you've got that open dialogue, trusted dialogue. It's a safe space. I'd also say set your family agenda out together. Do it as a team.
Yeah.
It's not you dictating. You're setting it together as a family, and also recognize that probably you'll fall off the wagon. One or more of you will. That's okay. That's life. You just reset. You acknowledge that together, and you reset it back onto that. Thirdly, for parents, I'd probably say get involved. I know it can be scary. I know it makes you feel uncomfortable. I know you'll probably always want to find the answers out before you let them loose or have that conversation, but don't wait. Just get stuck in, use the platforms together and go slowly as well. You're the parent at the end. I know they'll put a pressure on it, but we've heard it all, haven't we? All my friends are on there. They're all on. That's why they're having those conversations. And unfortunately, you have to, you may well have to just say to them, well, it's not. At the moment, I'm not comfortable you being on it. Let's review it again in a few months. Let's review it during the summer holidays, at Christmas. So stay strong, parents. Stay strong. And I think for young people, it is I would say, if you haven't yet had that conversation with your parents about social media, or you're worried about what they might say, you have to trust in the fact that they're your parents and they want the best for you. Just initiate a chat. Just have a chat with your parents, even if that's just telling them who you followed and why you find them amazing and inspiring. Secondly, I'd say, related to that, is if or when you come across something that makes you feel upset or concerns you, or you feel deep down that's not right, please tell a trusted adult, whether that's somebody at school, and they'll all know who their safeguarding lead is. That's the one thing, when I go into schools, every child knows who to go and talk to, which I think is fantastic. Go and tell that teacher, or tell your parents, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of doing that. You're not in trouble. They're there to help. And I think the third one would probably be to use the world of social media to be kind, to inspire, to empower your friends and your community on there. Because the more that young people do that, the more the discourse changes for them and for their generation.
Yeah.
So just be kind to people online.
Mm-hmm. I've just got two things off what you've said there, and I just kind of want to touch there what you've said for young people online. And I think the thing is, we often perceive it as negative, and it's not. It can be an amazing place, and social media has opened up so much creativity for people.
Tremendous. Yeah.
And it's given all sorts of different avenues to be creative that I think, if used in the right way and the way that you feel is right for you and appropriately, it can be amazing.
Absolutely.
And the other thing was your top tips for parents. I think when our children get to preteen, teenage, we kind of see them start to drift away from us a lot, and they they're really coming into their own, and they're finding their own friends and going off out on their own and stuff, aren't they? Right. And it can be quite hard to connect with them. It's like when you said, do it together, even finding out who they follow together, that could be such a huge tool in keeping that connection with them. And that's something I'd not really thought of. Connection's a big one for me, but that's something that I'd not really thought of in that sense.
It could be something as simple as, like we were talking about before, programs that you've watched together and actors that you're inspired by and want to know more about their life. I mean, we all used to do that anyway, but we'd get it in magazine format, right? And then we put a poster up on the wall, and everything about them. You do that together. But also, I think there's that parental reassurance to the child to say that you're suddenly not going to try and want to be cool. It's just you're doing this together. It's not necessarily that you want to try and fit in or be their friend. And it's like, don't worry, I won't follow them, or don't worry, or reassuring them that person or that moment is theirs, and you're not trying to encroach, but you're enjoying that together. And I think that's I found that such a lovely thing to do with my daughter. But she's at that age where we can watch those American teen drama things together and get lots of enjoyment. And I recognize moments, or for instance, we've just finished watching the Gilmore Girls, which I watched first time round. Now she watched it. And we're able to converse about the characters. We looked at where they were at now, inspired by the 90s and the noughties fashion. So that was a great conversational connection moment, like you say. And I think that the other thing, I suppose, that brings all of those tips and tools that we've talked about during the chat together is based on my motto, which is you control social media, not the other way around. And I think just repeating that to yourself helps to empower you to say the algorithms aren't in charge. The tools and the features, they're not in charge. You are. You decide to set the pace at which you want you and your child to enter that space. You set the pace. You set the barriers. You recognize what the control tools are. But also you get to decide that you want to engage in that space in a fun, inspiring, safe, kind of like what way, and that that's what you're going to do together, but you control it, not the other way around.
Amazing. So just lastly, to finish, is there anything else that you think parents need to know about their children being on social media or parenting and social media?
Gosh, we've covered so much, haven't we? Maybe I should have saved that you control social media for this point. This question. I preempted your question. I'd say no, just everything we've talked about, and just keep those lines of communication open.
Amazing.
Because it's not a
thank you very
matter
much.
Sorry. I was going to say it's
no,
not
go on, go on.
It's a matter of when they're going to need you.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on the show. I hope your parents find it of use and valuable.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure they will. I feel like that's been a really great episode. It's full of full of tips and information there. I know it's been helpful for me, so I'm sure it'll be helpful for all of the listeners too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just as a final note from me, I want to just read you something that I saw a couple of weeks ago now, and I shared on my Facebook page. Unfortunately, I don't know who wrote this to credit it, but here we go. Imagine something embarrassing happened to you at school when you were in the 7th grade. Everyone laughed and it was awful and you were mortified. Then a few weeks passed and everyone found new things to laugh about and they moved on. You didn't forget how embarrassed you were, but you could move on too. Now imagine you did something embarrassing in the 7th grade and everyone laughed and it was awful, but someone also caught it on Snapchat and turned it into a meme and a TikTok, and everyone in school saw it and took a screenshot of it and spread it further, and you couldn't get away from it, and no one forgot, and you couldn't either, and people were still resharing it months later. Just sit there and imagine it for a minute. Kids aren't ready for social media. It starts with us parents.